can you say special counsel in Mandarin? This seems like a pretty big deal to me. This story has China, this has politicians, and it has sex. That is a huge story that the media, with all those things, somehow is uninterested in. You have a Chinese spy that helps a congressman get elected, sleeps with him, infiltrates an intern into his office, and then that same congressman turns around and says, let's take the tariffs off China? I mean, the guy's either compromised or he's bought off by his donors or he's clueless. How is James Comey briefing him, the Democrats on the House Intel Committee, and then not telling the Republicans? Why do they get defensive briefings, but Republicans get spied on? So let me just step back and look at the scandals we have. We have the Swalwell scandal, we have the Durham special counsel situation, and we have the Biden family scandal with China right now. There's a lot of meat on that bone, guys, and I am hungry.
You are indeed. Geraldo, do you think that the calls for a special counsel are warranted and that makes sense for something like this?
No more special counsels, Dan. No more special.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Look what happened.
I should correct myself. The special counsel has been called for Hunter, not for this Eric Swalwell situation.
Well, it should. I don't like them, and I think the Mueller report and how that went off the rails should indicate forever. But I just want to say one thing about Fang Fang, the spy who may or may not have slept with Paul. Well, she definitely slept with two Midwestern mayors, one in Ohio. So we're all dying here in Ohio to find out which one she slept with. But one thing here's the important thing: she was president of the Cal State, one of the Cal states. He was president of the Chinese Student Association and the Asian Pacific. So, she became, and it turned out she's a spy. Guess how many students we have from China in the United States, at least pre-COVID. In 2019, we had 370,000 Chinese national students in the United States. Let's say 1/100th of 1% were spies. There's a lot of spies around posing as students and so forth, Dana.
But Greg, we know that those students from overseas, they pay full freight when it comes to tuition.
Yeah, but you know, she was sleeping with Ohio mayors around the time I was telling women I was an Ohio mayor. But I return to a very simple fact, okay? The lone figure standing up to China well before anybody else was Trump. So if you look at everybody that came after Trump and you see their connections to China, it's pretty amazing. So you got the media, you have the NBA, you have the tech giants, you have academia that have been busted with China, right, selling stuff. You have the entertainment industry who wants that huge billion population as an audience. You obviously have politicians like Swalwell. So they're all united in removing Trump because they all have some kind of substantial dependence on China. China's in their pocket. So here you have Swalwell leading a charge on Russian collusion. Was it really on behalf of America or was it on behalf of China because he was being influenced by China? I don't have an answer to that. I'm here only to pose questions. And who hasn't slept with a Chinese spy named Fang Fang? That for me is a Tuesday.
I think the best thing of this story is that her name is Fang Fang. But the other part of the best story, Emily, is that Eric Swalwell threw his hat in the ring to run for president last year.
Yes.
That's exactly right, Dana. Look, that relationship wasn't without consequences. From a small town mayor to a House Intel Committee member to running for president of the United States. Now, to Jesse's point, this reads like a Mitch Rapp novel, except without an attractive lead. And to Greg's point, that's exactly right. How many other small town city council members are being wooed by Fang Fang 2.0? I want to know whether Swalwell reported her as either a personal contact or a business contact during his security clearance background check that he had to conduct while becoming a congressman. And if not, why not? And final point, just bird's eye view here. I think the most dangerous thing we can do that the Democrats continue to do, and which terrifies me for the next 4 years, is make a threat partisan. It is a bipartisan threat, China is. And that to me is more dangerous than the actual threat, because that is what leaves us unprepared.
Indeed. All right. Coming up, Joe Biden with some new comments that are sure to set off the far left. He's making everybody mad.
Leaked audio of Joe Biden isn't going to sit well with the far left. Biden pointing out the obvious to civil rights leaders and blaming the defund the police movement for major Democratic losses.
They've already labeled us as being defund the police. Anything we put forward in terms of the organizational structure to change policing, which I promise you will occur. Promise you. Just think to yourself and give me advice whether we should do that before January 5th, because that's how they beat the living hell out of us across the country, saying that we're talking about defunding the police. We're not. We're talking about holding them accountable.
Holding them accountable by defunding them. We understand this. Emily, I get that what Joe is saying is that the Republicans won by simply amplifying the Democrats' message. The Republicans didn't change any of the message. They just said, hey, look, these leaders want to defund the police. That's all they did.
Totally. When he keeps saying they, and he means the GOP, he should be referring to the far left of his party. That's where it came from. To your point, all they were doing was amplifying it back. And also, frankly, this doesn't surprise me, right? This is sort of his continued talking point. It's the same one that Obama said the other week, right? When he said you're losing big audiences the same time you do this. It's the same Rep. Clyburn said when he said, I'm not into sloganeering and all you're doing is exchanging headway for headlines. Everybody in the party sees that they are exchanging strategy for holding on to this ideals. But look, Joe Biden continuing to push that narrative that what they actually mean is just holding them accountable. It's not going to work in 2022, nor is it going to work in January.
Dana, the other point to this that wasn't mentioned in that leaked audio is that they were pushing this idea while denying what we were seeing with our own eyes on the streets of Democrat cities with the chaos, the looting, the arson.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, but in Minneapolis, they went ahead and they are actually defunding the police. So they'll have to have that social experiment there. They've already had, I think, 170 officers who are either retired or resigned. And look, I wouldn't want to be in that city right now. And I feel for the people that are, because they're going to go through a tough time until it's going to become obvious that they've made the wrong move here. The other thing I was thinking is that we're going to be back to the days of leaked audio, whereas with President Trump, you just had audio. He just did it with people on the phone.
Yeah,
there's no leaking.
That is so true. He'll say it right in front of you, Geraldo. So, Geraldo, you hit on this earlier. The problem with being a liberal progressive is that you can't own your liberal progressivism.
See, I think it's a bit more nefarious, Greg, because to me it sounded as if Joe Biden was saying, let's cool our jets until January 5th, and then we'll do the defund the police. We'll let's talk the moderate talk. No, we're not really defunding. We just want to, modernize and make more moderate the police. But it wasn't that. It sounded to me like he said, just hang in there. January 5th, we get Georgia behind us. Then we'll let them have it. It sounded kind of ugly and political to me.
That's a good point. Jesse, I fashioned a question just for you. I think that this points out the bizarre contrast between the down ballot fiasco of the Democrats and Joe still somehow winning, as if they overwhelmingly rejected the Democrats except for him, which makes no sense.
Yeah, it's one of those head scratchers, and I'm losing my hair because I keep scratching my head over this election. But I see this in a different way than everybody here. I see Joe as being a typical politician. Who cares what defund the police did to Democrats? Look what it did to the streets. Look what it did to the police. Look what it did to the neighborhoods. It destroyed those neighborhoods. It's like Barack Obama waits until his book tour comes out to start condemning defund the police. Where was he the whole summer when the cities were on fire? Joe Biden was bailing out defund the police rioters, and now he's worried about the politics of it. And let me hear this out. Have you heard one thing about police reform from Biden? First 100 days, are they going to do police reform? The first time I even heard him say they're going to do police reform is in leaked audio. So this just looks like, to me, you know, they play this big police race thing every 4 years, and then they do nothing about it, and then they stoke the fire again before the next election, and then they drop it. It's the same cycle every time.
I'm torn because this is such a great point, but Jesse made the great point. So I don't know how to handle that. All right,
just reject it.
Just Pfizer vaccine coming up. Plus, an Emmy wasn't enough. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo getting yet another award for his botched handling of the pandemic.